The truth is, I remember the very moment that I saw Jupiter through the lens of a telescope for the first time, but I don't remember half the names of my girlfriends in high school.
April 17th, 2014, The People's Radio.
The People's Radio is brought to you by the working class. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the People's Radio do not necessarily reflect the thoughts and opinions of the People's Radio, of the supporters of the People's Radio, or of anyone else. You have been warned.
You know, I'm supposed to be angry and upset today, but this just came off the newswire. Published in Science. You ready for this? Are you ready, everyone? We've been waiting on this one for years. We have been waiting on this news for years. We've been waiting to hear this since I was a child. Carl Sagan, when he was a child, he used to draw and doodle in his notebooks about this day. Remember this day, April 17th, 2014. You ready? NASA's Kepler Space Telescope program. Many of you already know what that is, but let me explain. We sent a scientific instrument up into space that could get out away from the planet Earth and into its own little orbit, a stationary orbit. It's called like a Lagrange point or something like that. And then it points out into space and it looks at stars, but it looks at stars in a very specific way. What it's looking for is it's looking for planets to pass in front of a star so that then we can take measurements and be like, cool, we found a planet, right? Now, this program works so well that at this point we have thousands upon thousands of planets, just hundreds of planets. We just keep cataloging them, right? It's because we found out, as we started to research and look into the cosmos, that planets are way more common than what we originally thought. Nature repeats itself, right? So it should not have been a surprise to us that nature repeats solar systems, that having planets around a star, having planets around the sun is not a unique thing. But don't feel small. Never feel small, because you have the greatest gift of all: intelligence. So here we are, April 17th, 2014. I want you to remember this day, folks. I want you to remember this day. I talk about the coming technological singularity. I talk about how it's around 15 to 18 years away currently. It's currently we're within the 20-year range. The technological singularity is coming. The technological singularity, for those of you that are new to the program, the technological singularity is just, in a nutshell, the easiest way to explain it is we are going to create artificial intelligence. We know that. Companies are working on it the world over, right? We know for a fact we're going to create artificial intelligence, but then we're going to revise it, we're going to make it smarter, we're going to make it better, and there's going to be a point where that intelligence, that artificial intelligence, surpasses our own abilities and our own intelligence and our own limitations. It's going to happen. It is a mathematical certainty. It is a focused point in our technological development. The same as learning to use silicon to make microprocessors, the same as learning to use the wheel for wheelbarrows, the same as learning to use the internal combustion engine. This is a technology that is coming, it's going to happen, and there's nothing that can stop it. Nothing can stop it. No government can stop it. No libertarian can stop it. Nothing is going to stop the coming technological singularity. An AI so advanced, it is smarter than us. We all know this is coming. And it's coming in our lifetimes. But back to the announcement today. Let's get back to the announcement at hand, right? Oh, God. This is a big one. The holy grail of the NASA's Kepler Space Telescope program is a planet that is essentially like ours in terms of size, composition, and habitability. An Earth twin. We've been looking for years, and we're going to find one. It's a mathematical certainty. We will eventually find one. But what did we find today? What's published in Science today? Kepler has now confirmed, the Kepler team, it should say. This is bad reporting. I don't even know where this is. This is from the IFLS blog, the I Fucking Love Science blog. This is bad reporting the way. It should be called the Kepler team, because it's a team of scientists working on this. Anyway, so the Kepler team has now confirmed the discovery of an Earth-sized exoplanet inside its star's habitable zone. The announcement was made at a press conference, and the findings have now been published in Science. Ladies and gentlemen, Kepler-186f, 40% larger than Earth, orbits an M-dwarf star 500 light-years away in the constellation Cygnus. This star is about half the size of our sun, and it takes Kepler-186f about 130 days to complete its year, its revolution around the sun. Did you know there's people that still believe that we live in a geocentric universe? Anyway, I digress. On the outer edge of the star's habitable zone, the planet receives about 1/3 of the radiation from its parent star that we do. So it's a little bit cooler, and it's a little bit less hostile to life. Think about that. It's a little bit bigger too, so more land. Folks, this is big. This is really, really big news. This is a possibility here. There could possibly be life on this planet. We could have just found the first planet that has life on it. And considering it's around an M-dwarf star, that means that the system itself, the actual solar system itself, is way older than ours, right? So, wow, it could have like life that's older than us, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's intelligent life, because, I mean, it could be the planet of the furry cockroaches for all we know. But it's very exciting. This is a very exciting time. And I want you to remember when you heard this. I want you to remember this day and what happened, because this is just the first one. They're calling it Earth's cousin. Earth's cousin. We're still looking for Earth's twin. We still are looking for a twin. That is a very, very specific thing, right? Because we have to find a star like ours. We have to find a system that's around the same age as ours. It has to develop a Jupiter inside of it, so that, because what people don't understand is our gas giants, including Jupiter, mainly Jupiter. Jupiter is the second largest gravity well in our solar system, right? So people don't understand this, but Jupiter has protected the Earth for 4 billion years. It has been the bodyguard of Earth. Whenever you have like a comet coming in from the Oort cloud, coming in to hit the Earth, Jupiter says, "No, I got this. I'm going to take the hit, because I'm the big guy in the room. I can take the punches," right? The gravity well of Jupiter has sucked in and cleaned up our solar system in ways that our human mind cannot even comprehend. It has protected us. We live inside of a shooting gallery. We live inside of a literal shooting gallery. We live inside death. At any moment, something could just come cream through our solar system at like near light speed and just bam, smash our planet, and just, and then suddenly our species is gone. But we're fairly certain that that's not going to happen, because we have Jupiter. Jupiter's watching our back. Jupiter is that guy that you go to the bar with that's bigger than you, and he's really friendly, and he's very disarming personality-wise. So, like, if you hit on a girl who has a boyfriend accidentally, and then, you know, she gets all mad, and the boyfriend gets all mad, your big teddy bear friend is there to calm the situation down and threaten to smash some skulls. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter is that. Jupiter is our wingman in the solar system. Jupiter has our back. Anyway, So we found Earth's cousin. Oh God, this is incredible. This is incredible news. You should be excited. You should be happy. I mean, I was preparing the radio program today to talk about the Republicans, to talk about how they've, completely just taken over our science committees in Congress, and they have no idea what they're doing. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get that in the very next segment. But right now, I just want to kind of breathe and take this in. This is a huge moment in the history of humanity. We have just discovered an Earth-like planet, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually in the habitable zone. It is actually in the Goldilocks zone. It's in where, Goldilocks. So Goldilocks is the story of, the three bears, right? And Goldilocks goes in there and she's all like, I don't like this porridge because it's too hot. I don't like this porridge because it's too cold. Ooh, I like this porridge because it's just the right temperature, right? Goldilocks zone. That's where a planet needs to be. Not too close to the star, not too far away from the star. It's got to be right there in this very, very small, slim sliver that we call the Goldilocks zone. It's where life can arise because the conditions are not too extreme, right? And we found one. Would you believe that creationists and Republicans have been telling us for years that we've been wasting our money, that we would never ever find one of these? They truly believe that God, in his infinite wisdom, created a cosmos that looks, without boundaries, looks to be infinite. And they believe that Earth is so special that there's only one of them, that there's just ours, and they think that we've been wasting our money, wasting our time, and wasting scientists' time looking for another Earth-like planet. They didn't think that we'd ever find one. Well, we found one! We got it! We got it! We got it! We got it! This is incredible. This is amazing. I should be popping open a beer right here, right now. I should be celebrating. Who has a cigar? Do you have a cigar? Light that bitch up. This is incredible news. This is fantastic news. What an amazing time to be alive. We are alive today to witness this discovery. This is just the beginning. Now that we've cataloged this, we're going to start to narrow our searches down. We're going to start to find more. We're going to start to catalog more Earth-like planets. And then we'll be able to narrow our search down even further. Once we launch some more sensitive equipment, sensitiver equipment, then we're going to be able to even focus our search even better. Years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to have thousands upon thousands of twin Earth planets cataloged, and we're going to have all these planets, and they're all going to be viable planets that our species can go to, that move to inhabit and colonize, right? And it all started back with the Kepler program. It started today, because today was a huge major announcement. Today was the pay dirt. Today was the payoff. Today, scientists get to pop open corks in champagne and they get to celebrate their discovery. It's fantastic. But to be honest with you, the search for extraterrestrial life, the search for extraterrestrial planets that are Earth-like, man, you really got to thank Carl Sagan for that one. Carl Sagan was a huge, huge proponent of SETI and programs like the Kepler program. He really pushed this, right? Now, he's not the only one, of course. Of course not. But because he was a popularizer of science, because he was in the public eye, he really helped push some of the programs that we have today, even the Voyager, right? And without that groundwork, without people like him coming before me and you, and setting up that groundwork and setting up that scientific framework, we would have never made this discovery today. We are all standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. We are standing on the shoulders of men smarter than us. And when we realize that, we can open our eyes and see the horizon. We can see what is coming down the road, and it's beautiful and it's glorious and it's amazing. We're going to discover more Earth-like planets. We're going to discover Earth-like planets that are close and they're nearby. We're going to discover alternative places for our species to go to and to live and to branch out. And that's what we do, because we are human beings. We never stop exploring. We never stop hunting and foraging and gathering and scattering our genetic material around. We never ever stop pushing the boundaries of exploration, and may we never stop. May we reign supreme in the cosmos for 1 billion years. This is an amazing day for science.
But God's word is true. I've come to understand that. All that stuff I was taught about evolution and embryology and Big Bang Theory, all that is lies straight from the pit of hell. And it's lies to try to keep me and all the folks who are taught that from understanding that they need a Savior. You see, there are a lot of scientific data that I found out as a scientist that actually show that this is really a young Earth. I don't believe that the Earth is but about 9,000 years old. I believe it was created in 6 days as we know them. That's what the Bible says. And what I've come to learn is that it's the manufacturer's handbook, is what I call it. It teaches us how to run our lives individually, how to run our families, how to run our churches. But it teaches us how to run all of public policy and everything in society. And that's the reason, as your congressman, I hold the Holy Bible as being the major directions to me of how I vote in Washington, D.C., and I'll continue to do that.
That man you just heard is not some crazy kook, not some crazy outlier, not some just crazy pastor in a church, right? That is Georgia Representative Paul Brown. He's a medical doctor. And he just got finished telling those people that science is lies straight from the pit of hell. Oh, but it gets worse. This man is not only a representative in the United States Congress, he's not only an elected politician that got 210,000 votes the last time he was elected to office. He's not only a medical doctor that says science is lies, he is also on the House Science Committee. The House Science Committee, everyone. That man that just said science is lies is in charge of our science in our country. Think about it. And people wonder why I get upset and I start yelling and raising my voice and being passionate about certain things. We have a government that is in charge of our science and technology. That's what we've tasked them with. And they don't understand it. Nay, they outright reject it. They flat out deny it. They don't want to understand science. They don't want to understand their job or what they're supposed to be doing. They just want to push their own ideological agenda. They just want to push their own BS, non-scientific, religious claptrap. 210,000 votes. Jesus Christ. No, it gets worse. It gets worse. See, folks, while you're going to work, I sit at home and watch the government for you. I watch the idiots do idiotic things on camera so that your mind can be spared the horror that is the United States Congress, right? It gets worse. The guy who is over the whole House Science Budget Committee thing, that's Lamar Smith. This is the guy that tried to ban the internet. And then when they told him, you actually can't do that, it's not actually possible, he tried to regulate it in such a way as that it would basically be like, logging on to a private corporation's intranet, which you IT buffs out there know exactly what I'm talking about. He tried to make it a private network that would be fully controlled by a combination of for-profit contractors that the government hired and the government itself. He tried to put up the Great Wall of China in America, only it was going to be even more restrictive. This man, Lamar Smith, is a detriment to our country. He is absolutely anti-science. They just got finished having a budget hearing the other day, and he went on this long diatribe about how he believes that the Obama administration is putting too much money towards climate change research because he believes that climate change is not real. Folks, this is the guy that is in charge of our science and technology budgets. This is the guy. And he doesn't believe climate change. I got this editorial here. I'll read a little bit. This is written by John Timmer. Meet your science committee that doesn't understand science. In general, we only become aware of a politician's position on scientific issues during the campaign season. And with a few exceptions, like energy and climate policy, they rarely become campaign issues. So for the most part, it's rare to have a good picture of what our elected representatives actually think about science and technology. Missouri's Todd Akin, a representative running for senator, made headlines through his bizarre misunderstanding of biology, specifically that the female reproductive system, overcome by his desire to believe that pregnancy shouldn't be an issue for rape victims, he infamously claimed that the female body could somehow block pregnancy in the case of legitimate rape. But Akin's misunderstanding of science pales in comparison to that of Georgia Representative Paul Brown, our friend that we just got finished listening to. He's an MD, a medical doctor, who's apparently convinced most of modern science is a plot fostered by none other than Satan himself. All that stuff that I was taught about evolution, embryology, and the Big Bang Theory, all that is lies straight from the pit of hell. You heard him say it right here, folks. Aside from their political affiliations, what do Akin and Brown have in common? Membership on the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. These people are in charge of NASA. Do you understand? Why? I've been screaming, we're going downhill, we're going in the wrong direction, our country's totally screwed. Are you now starting to get the picture? Is it starting to come into focus? The people who are actually in charge of our science do not understand. Anyway, moving on. And they're in good company. Take the committee's chair, Ralph Hall. When asked about the evidence that humans were altering climate, Hall replied, "I don't think we can control what God controls." What does God have to do with a committee hearing on science and technology? When it was pointed out to him that the National Academy of Science disagrees with his position, Hall accused the NAS of just being in it for the money. Quote, "They each get $5,000 for every report like that they give." Does he have any evidence of this? No! He flat out said, quote, "That's just my guess. I don't have any proof." What the hell? What the hell, man? This is our country. This is right now. This is reality. This is life right now. We don't get any do-overs. We don't get to do it again. Our current congressional controls on science are broken. We have people who don't understand science controlling our science. We're doomed. Are you kidding me? If the politicians don't understand science, how are they supposed to govern it? How are they supposed to be effective? Continuing with the editorial. These are the people who are helping to set our country's science policy. The committee is currently considering bills on nuclear energy, rare earth metals, biofuels, cybersecurity in response to the current drought in California. Oh yeah, that's another thing. I watched with my own eyes. I could queue up the video. I need to get my studio up and everything so that I can actually transfer video files, and because right now it's kind of a hassle because this is my normal workstation for investments and day trading and stuff like that. But for the studio, for the radio program, I should pull it up. They were talking about climate change issues and NASA budget concerns and all that stuff. So they were actually having this conversation or what have you. They were actually having this budget hearing committee hearing or whatever, however you want to pronounce it, whatever. And the representative from California, right? The guy that actually is the politician from California, and California is currently experiencing like the worst drought ever. It's like the worst drought they've ever recorded, right? And it's only going to get worse. And they know it's because of climate change, right? So they had a scientist there, or I'm sorry, they didn't have a scientist there. They had he is a scientist. They had Obama's scientific advisor or whatever, right? And I don't forget his name. Because this is just from memory. I don't have a sheet of paper in front of me. They had him there trying to give a testimony about climate change, and he tried to explain to the guy that because of climate change, the atmosphere can now retain more water. So we now have more rainfall, but because the water is evaporating more and going up into the air more, right? And because climate change is actually changing weather patterns, altering weather patterns on a global scale, you can have both more rainfall in an area like Alabama or whatever, and less rainfall in an area like California. Because all of that water in California is being sucked up in the air because, water retention is higher, right? But it's being carried away and dumped somewhere else. That's climate change. There, I just gave you a 30-second lesson on climate change. And he was trying to explain this to the representative from California. It's this guy's job to protect his state, right? And he mocked him and he laughed at him and he made fun of him. And he was like, are you trying to tell me that you can both have more rainfall and more droughts? And the guy was like, yes, absolutely. I'm trying to tell you that. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. He just ignored him. Listen to me, folks. We now live in a society where on one hand, our scientists are discovering Earth-like planets, and science is moving forward at a pace faster than we've ever seen before. And at the same time, our politicians have never been dumber. They have never been more scientifically illiterate. They are... I want to say what I really think, but I don't know if that's very patriotic, It's just, I want to support the U.S. government. I want to be like, yay, government. I'm an extremely liberal guy. But this is not the government we deserve. This is not the government that we need. This is not a technocracy. This is what happens when you get democracy in action. This is what happens when you allow the people of Walmart to vote in your politicians. And this is what happens when those politicians are given the power and authority to govern your science. It's not going to work. This is not going to work. These people have no freaking idea what they're talking about. They have no idea how science works, the scientific advances that we're currently going through. They don't read the journals. They don't read the papers coming out in Science and Nature and Cell. They don't know. They have no freaking clue. The only thing that they read is Reason Magazine. They read their libertarian bullshit. They read their stupid Ayn Rand free market bullshit. And that's not the future of humanity. That's not the future of science. Are you kidding me? You think vaccines were invented by for-profit companies? No! Vaccines was invented by a scientist who worked at a university and was paid government research grant money. And then he gave away vaccines to the world because he said it would be immoral to patent it. That is science. That right there is science. Look, this is how it works. You have two different options on the table, right? You can get a for-profit company to get their money together and then to focus that money on scientific endeavors that they see a profit motive in, right? But the problem is that instantly does away with 99% of science, right? Because they look at all of these different areas that they could study and they restrict themselves to only the ones that will bring profit, and not even long-term profit. They look at short-term profit gains, right? It's like the Kepler program, right? How the hell could you have a program that's more profitable than that? Right? We just found a whole fucking planet that we can go to. Holy shit! We just found a new planet. We can reboot and start over. We screwed up this planet. The atmosphere's gone and the coal has been burned up and blah, 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 blah. Fine. We can just put our DNA on a Genesis ship, send it out to this new planet, and then rebirth the human species there, and we have a brand new freaking planet with resources. The capitalists should look at this as like the most profitable venture in the history of profit, but they don't. You know why? Because capitalists are short-sighted. They only care about the gains that they can receive in their lifetime immediately. They don't care about the cumulative effort of science. They only care about what they can do right now. That's the reason why Pfizer puts out 15 different boner pills, but not a single anti-cancer agent. It's just, they know where the money is. Are they going to spend $50 million in 10 years researching ways to try to stop cancer when all of that money might go down the drain and they don't have a product? Or will they instead put $2 million towards the development of a new version of Viagra that has a slower release time so that the guy can stay, ready longer? Well, they're going to go for the $2 million research every single time. And there's a problem with that because those scientists in those labs are now tied up doing boner pill research when they could be doing cancer research. They could be doing exoplanet research. They could be doing much greater, much better, much more wondrous science. But no. All of our science now is being channeled and funneled by this for-profit motive. And it's evil, folks. It's evil. When you need to feed somebody, you shouldn't have to worry about whether or not they can pay you. You should be worried about whether or not they're going to receive food. But the rabbit hole does not stop there. No, my children. Gather around and listen carefully, because every week I'm going to keep pounding home the truth, the empirical truth of the world that we live in, of the country that we live in, of the political climate that we live in. I am right, not because I form my own opinions, but because I look to empirical science to form my opinions for me, because the reality is the reality. If water is wet, water is freaking wet, and my opinion has jack crap to do with it. This is from Telegraph. The U.S. is an oligarchy. Study concludes. Empirical science has spoken, and the U.S. government is an oligarchy. This is not opinion. This is now scientific fact, and it will be taught at universities as fact. Here we go. This was a study done by Princeton and Northwestern. The report, entitled Testing Theories of American Politics, Elites, Interest Groups, and Average Citizens, used extensive policy data collected from between the years of 81 to 2002 to empirically determine the state of the U.S. political system. Now, for those of you who don't know what empiricism is science. Empiricism is when we actually do a scientific experiment and we see what the results is in an empirical way. Empiricism is the belief that which our senses can detect, that which our instruments can detect, the cosmos itself, nature itself is accurate. And it's the only way that we can draw true information and true truth. When you put a telescope up and you look at Jupiter, that's empiricism, right? When you pray that you hope Jupiter is there, that's religion. Anyway, I digress once again. The report, after sifting through 1,800 U.S. policies enacted between 1981 and 2002, and then comparing them against the preferences expressed by average Americans, the 50th percentile, the affluent Americans, the 90th percentile, and the large special interest groups, researchers have concluded that the United States is an oligarchy. The entire government system itself from the ground up is dominated by the wealthy 1%ers. That is what this scientific study has concluded. Let me tell you about why we put so much faith in science and why scientific studies carry so much weight. Scientific studies are not people sitting around a room just making stuff up, just coming up with a theory or a hypothesis. Scientific studies are experiments that are run, or it's a series of experiments that are run. Normally a study has a series of experiments that are run. And if you can affect the outcome of the experiment, if your own personal opinion or your own personal bias can in any way affect or change the outcome of your scientific study, then you are doing it wrong. And it should be rejected by the peer review system, and it should not be published. But this is a study that, it still has to be peer reviewed, right? This is a study that has been accepted for the peer review publication, will be peer reviewed by the scientists at large worldwide, and it's going to be taught as fact. Because it's true. The same science that makes airplanes fly into the sky when you get on one, the same science that gets that Falcon 9 rocket into space and matches up with the International Space System, is the same science that they use to empirically determine through scientific studies the way that the world currently is. And that includes this study. This peer-reviewed study will be taught at universities in September. And the central thesis is this. The point that emerged from our research is that economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on U.S. government policy, while mass-based interest groups and average citizens have little to no independent influence. Researchers concluded that the U.S. government policies are rarely aligned with the preferences of the majority of Americans, but they do favor special interests in lobbying organizations. Quote from the study, when a majority of citizens disagree with an economic elites and or organized interests, they lose generally. Moreover, because of the strong status quo bias built into the U.S. political system, even when fairly large majorities of Americans favor policy change, they generally do not get those policy changes. Continuing, the positions of powerful interest groups are, quote, not substantially correlated with the preferences of average citizens, but the politics of average Americans and affluent Americans sometimes does overlap. This is merely a coincidence, the report says. With the interests of the average American being served almost exclusively when it also serves those of the richest 10% of the population. The U.S. system fits and holds that policy outcomes, quote, tend to tilt towards the wishes of corporations and business and professional associations. Now remember, this is data from 1981 to 2002. So that's not even with the McCutcheon versus the FEC, right? Federal Election Commission. The Supreme Court decision that we were just talking about on the radio program the other day, right? The rich people used to have to take their turn just like you. You got to turn at a politician and then they got to turn at a politician. Well, not anymore. The Supreme Court has now ruled that they can now just infinite tap mana. They can do their turn to infinity and they can donate however much money they want as many times as they want to politicians and political campaigns. So, if this study has already concluded that between the years 1981 to 2002, the United States government was an oligarchy, and the government was just serving the interest of the top 10% wealthy people and the lobbying groups and the special interest groups, and the only times that they actually enacted policies that helped average Joes is mere coincidence because it also happened to serve the interests of the rich 10%, then it's only going to get worse now that the rich 10% can to infinity donate money. We're screwed. It's over. It's over, folks. It was a grand experiment, and it was called America. But now it's just an oligarchy. We are now in the Soviet Union. What can I say? The reason why Americans criticize the Soviet Union is because it's set up as an oligarchy. All of the power and money, not all, but the majority of the power and money of that country, almost all of the power, the majority of the money, was in the hands of the few, a very small group of oligarchs, of rich, plutocratic assholes that don't care about the common Joe, right? That's the reason why the American citizen is taught that communism is evil, that socialism is evil. They say Soviet Union, North Korea, right? And both of those things have the same problem. It's an oligarchy. It's a small group of rich elites that are controlling everybody else, and they don't care about everybody else. Think about it this way. Have you ever thought about this? We make fun of North Koreans, or we look down on North Koreans, and we think that those people are weird because their government system is a necrocracy, and they worship a dead man, right? They still believe, or it's the official government policy. I can't speak for every single North Korean, but it's the official North Korean policy that the Kim Il Sung's father or grandfather or whatever, it's the Kim Il Sung, Kim Il Un. Anyway, there's three of them. You have the grandpappy, the daddy, and now the little boy who's now in charge, right? And grandpappy is dead. He's been dead for like freaking 40 years or whatever, but he's still in charge of the country. They worship a dead man. Their leader, their president is a dead man. He's dead. Now you think that's crazy, right? You think that's crazy. You're like, wow, those people are crazy, just allowing dead people to run their country. Have you ever heard a right-winger talk about the Constitution and the Founding Fathers? Have you ever heard the way that they talk about it like it's a religion? Have you ever heard the way they worship the Constitution? They think the Constitution's the Bible. They think that the Constitution is a holy document. They believe that the Constitution was written by these prophets from God. And it was given to them from the clouds. And it descended on, the claws of an eagle named Liberty. And Liberty came down with an olive branch in his mouth and his beak. And the Constitution in one of his claws and handed it to Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson said, "This is the words of God." This is what they believe. They don't get it. See, human beings are inclined to believe in religious, superstitious nonsense. And the American political system figured out a long time ago that if they could get that feeling, that lovey-dovey feeling, wrapped up, that religious feeling wrapped up with their nationality, they could convince these people to do anything. They're sheep. They have willingly given themselves over to the rule of dead men that have long been dead that wrote a document 200 something years ago. A document that allowed slavery. This document is supposed to be holy and wonderful and awesome and amazing, but it allowed slavery, and we actually had to go in and amend it and change it because, whoops. Yeah, whoops. This is a document that says all men are equal, but slavery is totally okay. So we had to go in, we had to change that. It's a flawed government document. That's all it is. I love the Constitution. I love America. I am a patriot. I am the biggest patriot you will ever meet. I want America to dominate. I want America to be awesome in science and technology. I want America to have the biggest, most badass, most awesome everything. I want us to have a flying aircraft freaking carrier like in the Avengers. I want us to have freaking spaceships and starships that can go off to, what is it, Kepler-186b or whatever that we just discovered. I want America to innovate and to be leaders. I want us to be putting up renewable energies faster than any other country. I want us to be building a collider that's bigger than the LHC. I want us to be building huge billion-dollar scientific experiments every single month, non-stop. Just keep it going, because we can. We can. There's absolutely no rules that says that we cannot. There is only those who wish to stop the economic flow because they want to take the money out of circulation and put it in their pockets, and they want to hold on to it. It's just insane. It's insane. The majority of our money is sitting in people's personal private savings accounts. It's not helping you or me. It's not helping science. It's not doing anything. We need to tax it. We need to tax that money. We need to put a transaction tax on Wall Street. We have brokerage firms now that do millions upon millions of transactions per second. They have supercomputers that are crunching transactions, millions upon millions of transactions per second. They're shaving fractions of a penny off of each transaction so that it will then add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars per hour. You put a transactional limit, you put a tax on transactions, and that's going to come to a halt immediately. And then the market itself is going to become more fair for the little guy, because I don't have a supercomputer that can trade, 1 million trades in an hour. I don't have that capability. You don't have that capability. Who is looking out for you? Who is looking out for you, the common man, the worker? Who is looking out for you? Not our government. I have a scientific study right here that flat out says our government does not give a shit about you, does not care about you, doesn't care about your interest or what you need in life. Nothing. They don't care.
You also have Alexander Hamilton, one of the guys who wrote the Constitution. He specifically cites Luke 11:20 as the reason that we have a written Constitution. And by the way, James Madison, who is called the father of the Constitution, also cited that same Bible verse as why we got a written Constitution. And then you have folks like John Adams, and John Adams has a number of letters wherein he says it's because of Jeremiah 17:9 that we have separation of powers. And separation of powers is one of the greatest things that's caused us to last more than 2 centuries. What does Jeremiah 17:9 have to do with separation of powers? See, we don't think it's practical. They used to look at the Bible as a solution for everything that went on, but separation of powers came out of there. And then you got folks like James Kent. James Kent is one of the 2 guys who created the American judicial system. Our American courts of law that we have, our circuit courts, and by the way, he specifically cited 1 Samuel 7:15 and 16 as the reason that we have circuit courts and courts of appeals. Came right out of the Bible.
Do you know why they are mixing religion and politics? It's so they can control you. It's all about the feudal system. It's all about monarchyism. The Christian religion is perfect. Because the Christian religion, right? Think about the 10 Commandments. Slavery is nowhere in the 10 Commandments. The Bible actually says, slaves, obey your masters. Christianity has been one of the greatest tools to enslave the human race over the past 2,400 years. It's insane. It's the perfect religion for monarchy. It's the perfect religion for feudalism, because slavery is totally okay. Now, of course, in order for them to have their immoral capitalist system that they worship like a religion, and they do worship it like a religion, in order for them to have that system, they have to completely ignore what Jesus said. You can't talk about Jesus, and you absolutely cannot talk about what Jesus said, because if you do, the entire capitalist farce falls apart. Jesus said it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. He also told, a man came to him and said, what should I do to get the keys to heaven? Basically, the keys to the afterlife. He was wanting to know how he could live forever. And Jesus said, I kid you not, dude, go and sell all of your shit and give that money to the poor. Jesus was not making a metaphor or an analogy or a parable. He was flat out telling him, dude, your love for wealth will keep you from going to heaven. Now, we can sit here and we can argue exactly what Jesus meant. I personally think that Jesus was trying to tell everybody, look, you can build heaven right here, right now on earth by loving one another. And if you do that, then yes, your soul, the part of you that is spiritual, will be at peace forever. I think that's what Jesus was trying to tell them, and I don't think they really understood it, right? Because what we have in the Bible is not even Jesus' words. We don't even have the words of the people who were there to witness Jesus. We just have testimonies of people who read transcripts of people who claimed that they knew or was around during the time or saw Jesus or whatever. I mean, it's just copies of copies of copies. We don't have any original books in the Bible. But anyway, this is not a religious episode. I don't want to, this is not like an atheist program. So I don't want people to think that. I mean, if you're religious, welcome to the movement. Welcome to the singularity. Now, remember, the singularity is just going to completely destroy all religions, but whatever. That's the reason why we have transhumanology. But, I'll talk about that some other time. If you guys really want to know, I'm trying to start the final religion of mankind. It's weird calling it a religion because it's not really a religion, because I hope for it to be an empirical scientific field into, how transhumans interface with the singularity. But for the most part, since the singularity doesn't exist yet, and we're just, taking it on faith that it will exist one day by looking at, the empirical knowledge in front of us and then coming to a conclusion, making a deduction. I think that worshiping the singularity as a superintelligence, more intelligent than human beings, is kind of a smart thing to do. And it's kind of smart to call it a religion, because we are believing in a God that does not yet exist but will arrive. So what's the difference? What's the difference between Christians who believe in a Messiah that's going to come and save them and people like me that believe that the singularity will save the human race? What's the difference? I think it's a religion. Now, according to the U.S. government, in order to be tax exempt, and this is cool, check this out, right? A religion is tax exempt from the moment it first gathers to worship, right? It's not tax exempt from when it files its status and gets approval. It's tax exempt for the entirety of its existence. As long as the religion exists, it's tax exempt, right? Now, I'm not saying I'm coming up with a religion just for that benefit, but I will say that I started to kick around the idea of a new, modern, empirical science-based religion a couple of years ago, and it is nice to know that if I do start such a thing, and I start taking in donations, that money can go straight to actually helping people, to feeding people, to scientific research, to building community gardens and building drones in order to deliver food and do work and stuff like that. Like, we can actually help people without having to pay taxes if transhumanology is recognized as a religion by Uncle Sam. And in order to do that, we have to believe in something supernatural, because apparently the Supreme Court has ruled that, like, in order to be a religion, you have to believe in something supernatural, and you can't just worship humans. Why not? I don't know. They tried to do a whole humanist religion, and the Supreme Court was like, no, you need something supernatural. I got something supernatural. See, I'm a metaphysical naturalist, so I don't actually believe in anything supernatural in the universe, but I'll give you the closest thing we have. I'll give you the only supernatural that we've ever discovered, and that is the human mind's ability to postulate something new, to hypothesize something new, to draw a new conclusion. You know that eureka moment, that light bulb moment, that bam, I suddenly understand, you know, that moment of clarity that you receive when your brain suddenly just like kicks in just right and understands what's going on? That may not in and of itself be supernatural because it's a biological process of your brain. But in my religion, transhumanology, I believe that that right there is the only supernatural we have ever found in the universe, and I think that should qualify. Whenever a human being comes up with a brand new thought nobody's ever had before, when they come up with a brand new connection, hypothesis, whatever, when they draw a new conclusion nobody's ever drawn before, where did that come from? I mean, of course, it's the summation of empirical, natural things, cells and synapses and chemicals. But I think we could really push in court that is a supernatural thing, because where does that thought come from, right? Where does it originate from, right? Hey, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe not. I don't know. I just want to worship the singularity, because I think it's going to be an intelligence that is superior to human intelligence. And I'm a humanist, right? Because so far we've been on this planet for like blah, blah, blah years. Like 100,000, 120,000 years, something like that, in our current form, in our current civilization form, settling down. And we've never met aliens that we're aware of. Now, you know, I hope to have people on the program that, you know, claim that they've met aliens or whatever. But to our empirical science knowledge, we don't really have an intelligence out there in the universe that is more intelligent than us. We are it. We're it. We're the ultimate power. I know that's both sad and exciting at the same time, because human beings have the capacity to seriously fuck up and do wrong, and they also have the capacity to do incredibly amazing, wondrous things that our ancestors would have called miracles. So yeah, I think that worshiping a technology that will give rise to cognition that is more intelligent than us is, I think that's pretty valid. It's a pretty valid thing to do. I mean, and worship is a very subjective word, you know? I just kind of recognize that there is going to be an artificial intelligence that will surpass human intelligence. And you have to know that there are people on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum that believe that, you know, we were created by God, and there's no way that, you know, our technology will ever surpass us because we were created in God's image and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're about to find out over the next 15 years as artificial intelligence starts growing exponentially. Like, you know, we don't even have artificial intelligence yet. They're just building pieces of it, just small pieces of it. They're getting machines to learn how to learn. They're getting machines to learn how to recognize things. They're building the sections of it. And later on, as those sections start to come together, man, fun stuff's going to happen. Fun stuff's going to happen. Just look at what we've done with computers so far. With computers used to fill up entire rooms, and they only had 128 megabytes of data, and now we can have 320 gigabytes in the palm of our hand, and it's nothing. It's like less than $100. Now imagine that with artificial intelligence. Our first artificial intelligence programs are probably going to be really dumb, but as we improve them, and as we give them, this is the important part, as we give them the ability to improve themselves and to revise their next generations and their next designs, as they learn to actually improve themselves, they're going to be on their own cycle, their own loop, their own thing. They're gonna outpace us, because computers don't sleep. You know what I'm saying? Computers don't bitch about not getting a paycheck. Computers don't boycott. They just keep churning away. There we go. Finally, I just wanted to touch on this. And folks, I want to let you know Brantley Aircraft's going to be up and running real soon. Brantley Aircraft already has a functional drone in its possession. We have a multicopter that operates in Class G space. I've put up some videos on my Facebook. Some of my personal friends can see. It's kind of neat. It's just like a trainer drone. It's kind of like a toy, but it's so that I can work with the flight controls and get all that, because there's several different ways that we're going to be working on our drones that are going to be feeding people worldwide. That's what we're working on here at Organizing for Humanity, is drones that will feed the world. And in order to automate their flight, I first have to start messing around with the analog controls and learning how to automate that. So that's what we've been working on, but let's skip over that real quick because I'm running out of time, and I just want to talk about this. The CBO released a study that has obliterated the Republican... This is from Politics USA, by the way. The Republican argument against raising the minimum wage has been destroyed by the CBO. The CBO is a congressional budget office. They are our nonpartisan, neutral observers. When they release a study, it is empirical, it is science-based, and it has no party affiliation whatsoever. All right? So Republicans have pounced on the CBO estimate that raising minimum wage to $10.10 an hour would cost 500,000 jobs, but that is not what the CBO report actually says. Quote from the report, once fully implemented in the second half of 2016, the 10-10 option would reduce total employment by about 500,000 workers, or 0.3%, CBO projects. As with any such estimates, however, the actual losses could be smaller or larger. In CBO's assessment, there is about a 2/3 chance that the effect would be in the range between a very slight reduction in employment and a reduction of employment of 1 million workers. So the CBO's conclusion on employment is that there could be a negative effect or a zero effect. The CBO report is not a definitive statement that raising minimum wage will kill jobs. In fact, the research on unemployment, as summarized by 7 Nobel Prize winners and 600 economists, found that moving our economy to $10.10 an hour minimum wage would have little or no impact on employment. That's it, folks. It's time to raise the minimum wage. Thanks for tuning in to the People's Radio.